down our picks for the top 20 greatest fighters of all time.
Only last week, I murdered a rock.
Come on, man.
Injured a stone. Hospitalized a brick. I'm so mean I make medicine sick.
For this list,
Come on,
we're looking at the greatest combatants in different disciplines of combat sports, including MMA, boxing, and traditional martial arts. Our choices will be based on skill set, dominance, and influence. Which of these fighters would you avoid taking on in a fight? Which one would win if they faced each other? Be sure to let us know in the comments. Number 20. Willie Peck, greatly remembered for...
We coming with the Bob Cousies. We coming with the Bob Cousies.
For his defensive prowess, Willie Peck could avoid just about anything thrown his way. What also flustered his opponents was his unorthodox style. Often switching stances and with constant head movement, he would confuse his opponents and easily edge them out. His evasion skills are evident, as his career spanned over 20 years, and he fought in a total of 241 fights, winning 230.
He was poetry and rhythm, dancing and boxing pumps. His artistry challenged vision. He was unbelievable.
His defensive tactics and technique put him in a class of his own, earning him the nickname the Will-O-the-Wisp. He will forever be remembered as a skilled fighter and one of boxing's greatest competitors at featherweight. Number 19. Jack Dempsey. Considered one of boxing's pioneers at heavyweight, the Manasseh Mauler was a massive draw and star during the early 20th century.
Jack Dempsey represented a whole new era. He comes in like a pit bull. He crouches low, his hair is shaved up the back of his head, he's got this scowl, and he's out to kill his opponent.
And this excited the country. And the country had just come out of the war. They wanted heroes. And boy, they loved Jack Dempsey.
With tremendous speed and powerful knockout power, win, lose, or draw, the man always put on a show, and opponents knew they'd be in for a war. Dempsey's reign at heavyweight at the time was unprecedented, having held the heavyweight crown after defeating Jess Willard for 7 years. In the end, Dempsey set the standards for what it meant to be a boxing superstar.
Bro, he's not good. He's not good. He's not good. He's not good. Why did he let him fight? He's holding on to the rope. Why you letting him fight? He didn't even beat the 5 count yet. He didn't even beat a 5 count.
No, that's crazy. That's actually crazy.
He is
cemented the boxing style and fans frequently find and associate the division.
He could have died.
The savagery,
bro, he could have died, bro.
Dempsey displayed had never been seen
really
in a boxing ring before.
Terrible red.
People couldn't believe it, and that sort of set him off for the Jack Dempsey, the Manasseh Mauler. He was a killer.
Number 18, Daniel Cormier.
18?
Very few fighters have earned the honor of being crowned champion in separate divisions, but Daniel Cormier is just one of them. A decorated wrestler, Cormier eventually made the transition to mixed martial arts, where he would go on to dominate in Strikeforce and eventually the UFC. Often remembered for his fierce rivalry with Jon Jones, Cormier went on to successfully defend his light heavyweight and heavyweight belts a total of 4 times with memorable and dominant performances. Despite the shadow of Jon Jones looming over his tenure as the light heavyweight champion and losing out on the trilogy with Stipe Miocic, there isn't a doubt Cormier is among one of the greatest to ever compete in the octagon.
You know, I've had a long run. It's been great. I mean, I just fought my last fight for a heavyweight championship, and it was a pretty good fight. So
it was a great fight. It was a great fight. You've been a great champion, and you will without a doubt go down in history as one of the greatest combat sports athletes of all time.
Number 17, Roberto Duran. With 70 knockouts under his belt, it's no wonder this legend was nicknamed Hands of Stone. Along with his vicious knockout power, another one of his key attributes was his longevity. Duran racked up several wins and claimed titles in several divisions and became the first man to defeat the legendary Sugar Ray Leonard.
That name, Manos de Piedra, is true. Hands of Stone. Every punch, and I'm not exaggerating, every punch that he hit me with, from the body to the head, felt like bricks.
A powerhouse who overwhelmed his opponents with his voracious style that often had them reeling in the ring, Duran always got crowds on their feet and has been deemed by many as the greatest to compete at lightweight.
He was brutal, ruthless, and he was the new champion.
The fight has been stopped, and the winner and new lightweight champion of the world, 21-year-old. Roberto Duran.
Number 16, Archie Moore. With over 200 fights to his name, this light heavyweight icon epitomized durability and longevity in fighting. Moore also made a name for himself for his punching power, with an outstanding 141 knockouts to his name.
By 1955, Archie Moore had been in the amateur and professional boxing ring for over 20 years. It was a measure of his skill as a fighter.
What also made Moore unique was his perseverance. Whether he was battling injuries or going relatively unnoticed throughout a good portion of his career, Moore continued on, eventually earning a title shot against and beating Joe Maxim at the age of 39.
Archie has finally come into his own as he wins the unanimous decision in the 129th bout of his career, and it's his 105th win.
He was a champion for nearly a decade, and while he did fall short when taking on established fighters in the heavyweight division, Moore will forever be remembered among the greats at light heavyweight. Number 15, Sugar Ray Leonard. A force to be reckoned with, Sugar Ray Leonard fought his way to championships in 5 different weight classes. As revered as his style is, Leonard is often remembered for beating some of the greatest fighters of his generation, including Tommy Hearns, Roberto Duran, and Marvin Hagler. You'd be hard-pressed to find many fighters whose fight resume is as strong as Leonard's. He is often credited as one of the fighters who kept boxing relevant after Muhammad Ali's retirement. With his unmatched technique and persona, Leonard was feared by many in the late 70s and 80s, and with good reason.
Because your dreams are the window to your future. Your goals are the vehicle that takes you there. You take away those dreams, you're stuck in a room without windows. You take away those goals, and you don't have a map to get to your dreams.
Number 14, Floyd Mayweather.
Oh, whoa! I'm gone, bro. This is terrible list.
Yeah, he could be I've seen everything. I've seen all you see.
Let me hear the explanation.
Jr. Noted for his lavish lifestyle, Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s name has always been considered among the elite in boxing. The reason why? His IQ and incredible defensive tactics in the ring. Simply put, he is among the greatest boxers when it comes to avoiding damage and getting hit.
You see a guy who is a perfectionist, a guy with heart, a guy with bravado, a guy with personality. He's one of the best.
While arguments have been made that he's never fought fighters who were in their prime, there's still no denying the skill and that undefeated 50-0 record. Whether you love him or hate him, there's no denying that Money Mayweather has cemented his place among the all-time greats in the art of boxing and combat sports.
I'm just saying I'm the best fighter in the sport of boxing. No one has dethroned me, so how am I not pound for pound the best fighter in the world? You tell me.
Number 13, Khabib Nurmagomedov. This Dagestan star never lost a fight, earning 29 wins in a row. Through strong wrestling and vicious ground and pound, Nurmagomedov has dominated every opponent that was put in front of him. Despite injuries often hampering his rise to the top, Nurmagomedov would eventually capture the UFC lightweight title and defend his belt against the biggest names in the division. Following his 3rd title defense against Justin Gaethje, the Eagle retired, citing his belief that he could no longer fight without his father, who passed away after a bout with COVID.
Today, I want to say it was my last fight. And no way I'm going to come here without my father.
Leaving the sport at the top of his game, Nurmagomedov will forever be remembered as one of the UFC's biggest stars, whose no-nonsense approach and fighting style had him serve some of the biggest whoppings on pay-per-view. Number 12, Rocky Marciano.
What's the name of the list? Top 20 greatest fighters. I don't know.
Man, this nigga really Uncle Ruckus for real. He's Uncle Ruckus.
It was as if a sculptor took a big boulder and just chiseled a fighter out.
When you talk about durability in fighting, there's got to be mention of Rocky Marciano. Not only was he unbeaten, but in all the brawls that he fought, he was only knocked over twice. Marciano had all the intangibles for what makes an excellent fighter. stamina, speed, heart, and ferocious knockout power. His conditioning was also second to none, as he never tired in a fight and constantly put pressure on his opponents. These qualities, his fighting style, and reign as heavyweight champion make him a legend and an obvious choice for this list.
Winner by a knockout and still heavyweight champion of the world, Rocky Marciano.
Number 11, Anderson Silva.
Like Anderson Silva when he was like 30 to 32.
I remember that. Longest reign.
You would watch him and just like put your hands to your head and go, geez.
The Spider once held the UFC record for the most consecutive title defenses, and at one point, even UFC Prez Dana White called this Brazilian the best mixed martial artist ever. Known mainly for his Muay Thai skills, he's also got black belts in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Judo among his many ranks. Labeled one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in history, he has won fights by knockout, submission, intimidation, and any other way he can, which sometimes gets him in trouble. Making a return in the foray of boxing, fans are curious to see how Silva will fare in the years to come. Number 10, Jon Jones.
To be the best ever, it's not meant to be easy.
He's considered by many as the greatest light heavyweight fighter of all time, and it's not hard to see why. His meteoric rise in the sport saw him earn a title shot and successfully claim the light heavyweight crown against legend Mauricio Shogun Rua at 23 years old. Whether by submission, a knockout, or by engaging in an all-out war for nearly a decade, Jon Jones went on to defend his belt against some of the greatest light heavyweights in history, dismantling them one after the other. Simply put, no one seems to have been able to figure out the Jon Jones puzzle. With Jones expected to make his return to the UFC at heavyweight, fans wait patiently to see how the former light heavyweight king will fare in this division.
He is the present and he is the future, and he might be the greatest talent that we've ever seen in the UFC.
Shouldn't you get a break for being a good driver?
I'm not
With
getting
Karma
premium,
Drive
bro.
from Credit Karma.
They can pay me.
Number 9,
Donate. I'll
Roy
get premium.
Jones Jr. Named the Boxing Writers Association of America's Fighter of the Decade for the 90s, Jones was the first boxer to go from light middleweight to a heavyweight title.
He's Miles Davis. He's Picasso. Roy is just naturally gifted with instincts, reactions, abilities that other fighters don't have and will never have.
To start his career, he went 34 bouts without losing, and even then, his first defeat was controversial. With an original style and granite chin, Jones set a record by holding 7 belts simultaneously. Though his dominance declined, Jones's legacy was secure. Number 8, Fedor Emelianenko.
I personally believe, pound for pound, Fedor Emelianenko is the top fighter in all of mixed martial arts.
How do you earn the nickname The Last Emperor? Try going undefeated for almost a decade. Longevity was his greatest asset, as was intensity, stoicism, and unpredictability. This Russian heavyweight was a tough guy to knock out or dominate.
Hits harder than anybody I've ever seen when he's on the ground.
Some say he benefited from fighting easier opponents by fighting for Pride FC, M1 Global, and Affliction rather than UFC. But in his prime, Emelianenko was unquestionably king. Number 7, Manny Pacquiao.
No. Okay, no. That's where I gotta draw the line. Manny first you gonna put
Pacquiao.
First you don't put the sausage biscuit in the McDonald's video. Then you got Manny Pacquiao here to Floyd. Come on, bro.
You might well put Gervonta Davis here too.
Fails to surprise me with what he brings to the table. It's always a little better than I thought.
Oh my God.
In his heyday, he was arguably the biggest name in combat sports.
And who was he arguing with?
What was this video, man?
Like 2 weeks ago. Let me see.
This was like 2 weeks ago. Oh, that's tough.
Bro, come on, bro. Come on.
Fighter of the decade for the 2000s, the Pac-Man became the first octuple boxing champion and collected 12 world titles across 8 weight divisions. After starting his career in 1995, the Filipino fighter rocketed through weight classes like no one before or since, mastering fancy footwork with a stringent work ethic and eventually becoming one of the world's most electrifying and highest paid athletes. Number 6. Georges St. Pierre. On top of being a great ambassador to the sport of MMA, this welterweight's brains, brute strength, and discipline allowed him to succeed and dominate his opponents in the octagon. GSP's martial arts skill set was second to none, with karate, boxing, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, and Muay Thai all in his arsenal. He is one of the most well-rounded fighters to have ever stepped into the octagon. One of the UFC's biggest pay-per-view draws in history, the man known as Rush rode a career full of incredible highs.
Thank you for the support. Everybody that came to support me, thank you so much. My dream come true.
Number 5. Mike Tyson. Once the undisputed world heavyweight champion, Iron Mike claimed victory in his first 19 professional fights, all by KO.
Bro, let's be real with yourself, bro.
Leverage, strength, and a desire.
There's no way Conor can't be on the list.
Through the back of your head.
Having won several titles in the heavyweight division over his career, the baddest man on the planet was dominant and dreaded in the 80s and 90s, and could possibly have taken any guy on this list in his prime.
Oh my God.
Number 4. Muhammad Ali.
Who are the 3 niggas, bro? Who are the 3?
No way.
Who are the 3?
No way he's at 4.
This is the 2 weakest lists I ever seen. Back to back.
Yeah, you don't need to watch no more videos.
Yeah, bro, I'm done. I'm not watching these
He was
dudes
the
no more.
greatest, and as much a personality as he
E-Man, I'm
was a
coming for you.
fighter,
These your boys.
Ali persistently
These your
trash-talked
boys,
rivals
bruh.
and stood up for his beliefs.
You, George Foreman, all of you chumps are gonna bow when I whoop him. All of you. I know you got him. I know you got him picked. But the man's in trouble. I'm gonna show you how great I am.
In the ring, this heavyweight used his weight, footwork, speedy fists, and rope-a-dope technique to triumph. An Olympic gold medalist and 3-time world champ, he ended his career with 56 wins in 61 fights. And even when people called him over the hill, Ali surprised them all.
I told you today, I'm still the greatest of all time. Never again defeat me. Never again say that I'm going to be defeated. Never again make me the underdog until I'm about 50 years old.
Come on, man.
She takes a picture, and in that picture is this ET.
Then you might get me.
Number 3. Joe Logan.
Bro, come on, bro. They got Bob Petty.
Play the video. Let's get through this.
Known as one of the greatest heavyweights to ever step between the ropes, the Brown Bomber brought the sport of boxing back from a low point with his track record of industriousness, authenticity, and powerful punching. He defended his championship title 25 times over 140 consecutive months and retired with 66 wins in 70 fights, 52 coming by KO. An American icon, he also represented U.S. athletic dominance and the fight for integration.
Joe Louis transcended the race and transcended being the heavyweight champion of the world to an individual who gave hope to an entire generation of Americans and many people throughout the world as well.
Number 2. Bruce Lee.
Bruce
Lee had the
Lee.
goods to back up
Bruce
his pop
Lee.
culture status. Powerful,
Tristan,
flexible,
who you telling,
lightning
Tristan?
fast, and
Tristan,
with unheard of stamina,
it's
he
really about to make me mad,
revolutionized
bro.
fighting
I
as an
swear
art
to God,
form
bro.
and brought
I swear,
martial
bro.
arts to
He's
new
in here,
levels
bro.
of
I swear to God.
popularity.
Bro.
As the founder
Bruce
of
Lee?
Jeet Kune Do, or the way of the intercepting fist, Lee's was an amalgam of techniques. But he was a street fighter first and foremost, and
Bro,
a
he better
warrior
Muhammad
in
Ali,
the purest sense of the
Mike
word.
Tyson,
empty your
and Floyd
mind.
May. Floyd Mayweather didn't even make the top 10.
Shapeless.
Bro, wait.
Before we unveil our number 1
Honorable
pick,
mentions.
here are a few honorable mentions. Ronda
They ain't put no woman in here.
Rousey, a true pioneer in women's MMA, her armbar was deadly.
Just 1 year after Dana White famously said we'd never see women in the UFC, he relented, and that's because of Ronda Rousey. She is the ultimate package. She is an incredible athlete. It was apparent after one fight that she was the biggest superstar in the UFC.
Jackie Chan. His work in film helped put martial arts on the map, and inspired generations.
Fighter though. He's not a professional fighter. He was not a professional fighter. Why is he on the...
This Wushu champion was a driving force in the growth of martial arts. Amanda Nunes. This ATT product is the most dominant champion to compete in women's MMA.
She is the best women's fighter of all time and getting better with every single fight.
George Foreman. A career spanning almost 3 decades, his size and knockout power made him a formidable foe.
It is target practice. Frazier is ready to go again. Joe is standing. There he goes. The fight is stopped. It is over in the second round. George Foreman is the heavyweight champion of the world.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and
Conor
ring the
was
bell
on
to get
it.
notified
If
about our
Conor
latest
would've been on
videos.
it, bro, I
You
would
have
be
the
pissed.
option to
I
be
ain't gonna lie to
notified
you.
for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your
swear,
phone,
bro,
make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1, Sugar Ray Robinson.
But
We should
still, though,
remember Ray
he's not.
Robinson
But still,
because
though.
he was
Still,
the one
though.
perfect fighter. He
what's
was
up with all these
an
fighting
American
niggas?
original.
Cited by many as history's greatest boxer, Robinson is the man for whom the pound-for-pound
Sugar O'Malley.
rankings were created. Sugar Ray
What's up
met
with
the
Sugar?
fiercest competition
Sweet,
and
huh?
simply accomplished more than anyone else on this list, with 173 wins in 200 fights, 108 by knockout. His looks, charm, and showmanship blended with
the
speed,
top 20 greatest
footwork, a
fighters of all
rock-hard
time.
chin, and ambidextrous KO skills to ensure that Sugar Ray was the total package.
Never watch Mojo no more, bro. This is trash. These lists are terrible.
Showed what black pride really meant.
Do you agree with our picks?
No.
Check out this other recent clip.
No, we don't.